5 lessons leaders can learn from the government shutdown. That's our discussion today on the podcast. Let's jump in. BJ O'Neill here with the Business Coaching Success Podcast. So glad you're here, where I share with you strategies, tools, and tips to be able to grow your business coaching practice to 6 figures and beyond as a Christian business coach. Let's jump in. Welcome. Glad that you are here. Our discussion today on the podcast is as business strategists, as leaders. Perhaps you own your own business. Maybe you have years of experience, maybe as an executive, helping run a business, an SVP, whatever the leadership role may be. Maybe you're an amazing veteran and you have years of experience as a leader. And as you may be aware, I'm sure you are, at least as of this recording, a 40-day now, I think 41 maybe days of a government shutdown. We've been walking through that. And so real quick, as we discuss this today, very, very clear here. One, this is not political. I'm not going to make any political comments. Whatever your beliefs are, your views, what you support, what you don't, that's up to you. I'm not sharing any of that from my perspective. I'm simply talking about leadership lessons today. Why am I using the government shutdown for this episode? Well, one, it's relevant, right? You have a number of people who've been working together, conversations in front of people behind closed doors, secretive, public, social media, you name it, podcast. And so we've been talking about it in the world, much less just here in the U.S. And I just think it's important at times to reflect upon relevant real scenarios of what can I learn from that? Good situations, bad situations. Like, what can I glean? What can I learn? But to be clear, nothing political here, not sharing views, opinions. I don't want anybody else's views or opinions. That's not what this is about. It's just about you take a very difficult, challenging scenario, regardless of what your opinions are. What can you learn? That's the point, okay? By the way, real quick, if you're on a coaching team, this is great. Careful how you do it. It can be great content with your clients, or at least the ones that you have enough of a relationship that you can have a similar convo. If you are not on our coaching team, but you're curious about what we do, our complete and total done for you A to Z turnkey business coaching platform, and you just like to learn more about it, you could go to businesscoachmastery.com. That's businesscoachmastery.com. There's some information you can get there with an entire document and a no-cost video series you can watch to learn more about our software, our tools, how we ghostwrite books with you, give you all the training, resources. Everything is completely white labeled for you. It's pretty cool. At least I think so. And if you're interested in a conversation, we do this thing that's called an Explore the Systems quick chat. We're going to give you a high-level overview of how it works. You can determine if it's worth learning more about or not. All right, lesson number 1. Communication is everything. Let me say it again. Communication is everything. What does that mean? Well, as a business leader, as a business strategist, again, maybe you own a business or you're working with businesses, it's important to, you can't even overstate it, the importance of communication in all things. And if I were to just like simplify it, communication's best when it's heavily over-communicated, especially during uncertainties, okay? But it's very normal for most people to believe that they have communicated, or even if they have communicated what they said, the words they used, the tone, the approach, the channel that they used it in, sometimes it can be misunderstood, right? And so if you're in any business environment, you've seen this play out. You don't need the government and the way that they have or have not communicated to tell you the importance and the challenges of communication. Recently, as in like the last few days, our family we're going to New York during Christmas just to see the lights. And it's one of the fun things as an entrepreneur. You can just make those decisions if you want to do that, and you do it. And so that's what we're going to do. And one of our kids, in one of the conversations with one of them, hey, do you want to do X, Y, Z? Do you want tickets to go see this one thing? And the answer was no, not interested. Okay? There is a text that proves this. Days go by, though, and I bring the conversation up with that child of ours. And I said, so your mom said that you didn't want to go see, X, Y, Z. She never asked me that. True story, right? Now, to be fair, this is really a really good story. It kind of proves the point. I went back and said, did you actually talk? Are you sure you talked to him? She said, I'll show you the text. I said, could you send me that to me? So she did. But here's what my guess is going to be. I've not actually talked to him about it yet. As to, by the way, this was approached, but here's the deal. It was done in a text message. There had not been a verbal conversation, and likely he probably just doesn't remember. And I bet you, knowing him, once I show it to him, he might go, oh, if I show them the time, he might, oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot, whatever. There's a point. Now, that's not business. That's not, anything major at all, but it happens all the time where we don't communicate well, or even we're communicating well, but the tone that we're projecting shows blame, shows lack of care. I mean, all kinds of things. And so we have to just understand that when we're in the middle of challenges, especially, all right. So no doubt that, and by the way, when it comes to the government shutdown, there's probably we only know 2% of the whole thing. There's a lot of stuff that we'll never know, nor should we know. And it's really easy for lots of people to be keyboard warriors and say their opinions and whatnot about a challenging situation, but they're not in the middle of it. When you're in the middle of just complication and challenges, you have to overthink about communication and make sure that you're coming across with clarity, with humility and frequency, because silence breeds fear and assumptions. So when we're silent about things and we don't communicate well, that's where the enemy likes to use a lot of just, I bet they said this, I bet they meant that, they probably don't care. Like, people start judging one another. Communication has an opportunity to solve that. Number 2, open-mindedness over ego. Open-mindedness over ego. Now, we've seen politics, I'm in my 50s, and for as long as I've ever watched anything political, the egos are rampant. I don't care who you support. I don't care what party you support. I don't care what year you think's the best year. There's always egos that are involved, right? And so you can see right now, just in any kind of challenge, again, this is the most recent one, that what happens when pride outweighs progress. Blame. I want to get my way, you can't get yours. Or when it all gets solved, it's we didn't get our way, we had to cower and everything, right? And so, again, we don't know the entire situation of this one, but in your own situation, or as you're coaching your clients, it's really important as the leader to do everything you can, and everybody's personality is very different, to rise above the ego and to be super open-minded. It doesn't mean that you have to make decisions that you don't want to make, especially if you own a business or you're coaching the business owner themselves. It is their prerogative to make a decision about the business, even if their team members don't like it or whatever, because sometimes there's no better or worse. It's just opinions. And it is the right and prerogative of the business owner. But how they do it changes everything, right? So great leaders don't need to be right. They just need to do what's right. And what's right sometimes in humbleness is just communicating properly, regardless if someone doesn't like the actual outcome of what you're communicating. But when you're egotistical about it, or you just don't care and you show lack of support, lack of care, lack of understanding, especially when someone doesn't understand a decision, we can just step over them. If you're not familiar, I think it's supportive to utilize some type of personality assessment for every leader. I'm a big fan of DISC. It's just, for me at least, simple. There's plenty of others. Use the one you think's the best for you or for the client you're working with. But when a leader understands how they're wired and the potential blind spots that they have, that's super helpful for them to be way more open-minded than arrogant or egocentric. Again, Some people don't have that problem because that's just their natural gift mix, but lots of leaders do. Lots of leaders are built to make tough decisions, and sometimes that toughness comes along with arrogance and egos. It is what it is. Number 3, patience produces progress. This is a funny one to me because patience is not my middle name at all. I have to really work hard to be a patient individual. I don't care what season it is, if it's business or if it's family or if it's just standing in line at the grocery store. Patience is not my ballgame. So I have to work really hard. But in every season of delay, oftentimes, if you allow God to do this, He is developing discipline with you and me and trust. And I've also experienced in my own world that when I find myself to be in a patientless or I'm running out of it, on the times, and I don't do it every time, is it imperfect, human, just like you and the rest of us. When I'm cognitive to ask the question, God, my patience is running thin. What can you teach me here in this delay? Again, context here, 40-something days of a shutdown caused delay. Lots of pain, lots of issues in your own world and the clients that you serve and you work with as they have pains and delay. If we're building things, if we're starting things, it's taking longer. I mean, almost every project takes, on average, about 30% longer and 30% more budget to do. But what is God developing with discipline and trust? Okay? And so true leadership, which for me, there's no destination to true leadership. It's just a constant development. But it isn't frantic. It's faithful. As leaders, we can't afford to create chaos. We can't afford to run rampant and people see a chaotic environment because it causes everything's a trickle-down effect. It all rolls downhill, if you know what I mean. James 1:4 says, let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Patience refines leadership maturity. Number 4, unity drives momentum. Now, this is tough because even in circles of faith, nonprofit, faith-driven nonprofit organizations, churches, ministries, and certainly business owners who run the business, kind of like ministry in the marketplace, or they're a believer, whatever. Every day you have an opportunity to not be unified, and on a number of different levels. But as leaders, when we are creating unity and we're leading with unity and we're preaching, teaching, and walking out unity, we talk about leverage all the time. Momentum is leverage. It has the opportunity to drive a significant amount of leverage. And that's what you want. In business, unity doesn't mean uniformity, however. It just means shared mission and mutual respect. When you can build the team, if you've got a team of 5, 10, 15, or well more than that, 200, whatever, the team needs to understand, and culture needs to understand, that there's going to be times where we're going to walk away going, I would have preferred it, or my perspective differs. However, for the sake of the cause, I'm getting on board. I've said my piece. I was asked my position. I was asked my perspective. I've shared it, but it's going to go a different direction. However, because I care more about the mission, I am on board. So as leaders, we have to teach that. We have to emulate that. We have to instill that. But if you as the leader are causing dissension because you're not preaching unity, you might be the problem. Stepping on somebody's toes, probably. Or you may think that everybody else is the problem when in fact it might be the mirror. So you have to ask yourself that question if you are the leader, the business owner, the CEO. Am I teaching, instilling, and encouraging unity for the sake of momentum, even though there's not necessarily everybody agrees? You don't have to agree, as far as I'm concerned. Last one. Crisis reveals character. I mean, in every situation where it hits the fan, adversity will always expose the heart of leadership. And this is where, when it does become chaotic, You see fragments, you see shortness, you see lack of patience, you see frustrations, you see anger. And it doesn't mean that you have to like everything that's going on. It just means that we have an obligation, especially from a perspective of faith, we have an obligation to make sure that we are following a biblical context of crisis intervention and crisis leadership. How we act when things are not going the way we want them to go, how we act when things are frustrating. I mean, you go back and even look at during COVID, right, when all this started in 2020. I mean, we've never seen anything like this before in history, and I pray that we don't see it again. But you talk about crisis. We're having to do things we've never done before. We have no playbook. We have no perspective. And it revealed a lot of stuff for a lot of people. I mean, people really came to life on who they really were underneath all of the mess and the messiness, right? And so here's a question to ask for you, or if you're working with your clients, a question to ask for your clients. What would people learn about your leadership if your business or your team hit a pause button for 40 days? Just think about that for yourself. What would people learn about you, your leadership? Again, you might pose this to the business owner. What would people learn about your leadership if your business hit the pause button for 40 days? Luke 16:10 says, whoever can be trusted with little, you probably have heard this verse before, can also be trusted with much. If we don't have the capacity, God's, as far as I'm concerned, the businesses that we own, they're God's, they're ours. He's entrusting us to be good stewards of those resources and time and so on. But if we can't be trusted with us, then asking for more, there might be a reason why you don't see it. If we're not being good stewards of what we've been given, especially during crisis moments. And so I just am a fan of whatever's going on culturally. There's relevancy in learning from it, good, bad, and indifferent. There's value, as far as I'm concerned, in seeing how someone handled something, a comment that they've made, a speech that they've made, how they've handled, even things, from a global perspective, from a political perspective I'm referring to. Like there's things to learn. There's things to learn how when you watch, CEOs from the Fortune 500 world, how they spoke with eloquence or lack thereof. We've seen, recently the blunders that Cracker Barrel made. We saw the blunders recently, like really recently, that Starbucks has made with this, I think it was called a barista cup, I believe it was called. It was just a complete failure. And when we see these moments, there are great things to kind of pay attention to because there's always something to learn to bring into focus with our clients or you yourself if you own that business. And that's the reason why, as choppy as it may be, as opinionated as a lot of people are, even talking about a thing like the government shutdown, I think it's a good thing to do regarding, well, what can I learn from that? I don't know 99% of what's actually going on. None of us really do. We know what the sound bites we're told. But we understand that friction is real. And it's not going to be a United States front issue when our business, something happens with a vendor or with a customer or whatever. But the character's the same. Chaos is what it is. It's all in the eye of the beholder. Chaos, when you're in chaos with your own business or your clients, it's a real thing to you. And so I want to encourage you, we could go on with 15 other lessons, but these are 5 or so really big ones in my view that we can glean from to saying, I'm not going to judge the situation, I'm just going to learn from it. And of these leadership lessons, I want God to grow me not only as a leader, but an advocate for messy moment leadership principles. Messy moments just meaning, when it's not working, when the sales team's not performing, when the admins, made a massive error, when someone left and they just left a mess. There's just, the list goes on and on and on. Problems are real. Challenges are real. We live in a fallen world, and we have to learn how to navigate. And we get to choose. That's the cool thing. The word responsibility, as you may know, is the ability to choose your response. You have that right, and I would even argue you have that responsibility. But unfortunately, we see, especially through social media, lots of people in the world choose poorly when it comes to leadership. And we can prevent that. Great leadership, again, is not a destiny. It is a consistent measurement of 1% daily gains. How can I improve myself today in one small way? Tomorrow, how can I improve myself one small? All of a sudden, you get 1 year down the road, you've made 365 improvements. 2 years down the road, and so on, right? And so that's where I want to encourage you today to do your part to improve your leadership, to improve your ability to make an impact on the world. When the world meaning your world, your clients, your prospects, the business network that you're in, the environments that you're in, the networking groups, the conversations, the business functions and breakfasts, you can make an impact. Actually, you are making an impact. The question is, which one? Until next time, take care.